My name is Nico Ryse. I'm 29, and this Thanksgiving I ate alone. Top floor of the Skyline Hotel, Chicago. Private dining room. Soft jazz, candlelight, polished silver. 6 seats, all with hand-lettered name cards: Vivienne, Cora, Maddox, Jareth, me. I booked the space a month in advance, customized the menu, matched the wine to everyone's preferences. 6:15 p.m., no one came. Just one message from my sister Vivienne. We're celebrating at the estate. You get it, right? It's family. Below it, a photo of them at the mansion, smiling, glasses raised. Without me, I didn't get angry. I just opened my bag and pulled out the silver drive someone gave me at Union Station last week. Etched on the side, barely visible under the light, "Do not forget." I planned everything, not to impress them, just to see if this year they'd finally choose to show up. I reserved the exact dining suite Vivienne used for her engagement party. Same florist, same wine, different intention. The menu was personal: roast duck with pomegranate glaze, Jareth's favorite from his business trip in Lyon. Honey pear salad because Cora's allergic to garlic. Napa Reserve 27, the only red my foster father drinks if press is around. I wrote the invitations by hand. On ivory cardstock, forest ink. "Dear family, let's begin a new one." No one replied, just vague texts, missed calls. "We'll see." And silence. This morning I ironed my blazer twice, shined my shoes, walked to the restaurant early. Not to wait, but to believe. The table was flawless. The candles flickered like they were hopeful. The name card stood in place. The bread came warm, the air kind, and still no one, except the flash drive. I'd almost forgotten I had it. Given to me last week by a stranger in a gray coat waiting on the South Loop train. He'd looked right at me and said, "You work with Chronarch, right? Your name isn't on the file, but it should be." At the time, I thought he was confused, but now I wasn't sure. I pulled out my laptop, plugged it in. The drive lit up a pale electric blue. A single file appeared. Lara Ryse Memcore encrypted 2031. My heart paused. Lara Ryse, the founder of Chronarch, officially declared dead in 2006. Lab fire, total loss. I'd seen her name once, engraved on a plaque in a hallway no one used anymore. I never imagined it might have anything to do with me. I didn't open it right away. Something about the name, about the way the file pulsed like it was waiting, it felt personal. Too personal. I scanned the file. Encrypted. Military grade. But the signature embedded inside. It matched a set of clearance keys from Chronarch's first-generation security core. I'd seen that pattern once before. During a back-end audit I wasn't supposed to be part of. The day after I asked why my employee ID started with Rye, when everyone else's began with R. I decrypted the first layer. A voice came through, distorted, broken, but undeniably human. If you're watching this, then they've erased more than I feared. The screen went black for a beat, then faded into an old recording, low resolution. Timestamp, October 29, 2005. A woman stood in front of a workbench. Dark hair, sharp jaw, sleeves rolled. She wasn't smiling, just focused. Calm, tired, like someone who had run out of time but not out of purpose. My name is Lara Ryse, founder of Chronarch Systems, mother of one. Nico, if you're seeing this, you survived what I didn't. I didn't breathe. She said my name, not Nico Ryse, just Nico, and the way she said it, not as a code, not as a subject, as a mother. You were born during a year I wasn't supposed to make it through. The board said you were a liability. The investors wanted clean optics. Jareth offered to help, but help always had strings. I gripped the table. Jareth Ryse, my foster father, CEO of Chronarch, the man who always introduced me as a lucky addition to our legacy. They told me you'd be better off without the truth. They burned the files, changed your name, moved you into their world like a quiet acquisition. But blood remembers. Memory, Real memory always finds a way back. My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. I had spent years wondering why I never looked like anyone in family photos, why my last name felt like a uniform, why the Arden vaults always locked me out, even when I built the software. She leaned closer to the lens. One day, someone will hand you this drive. When that happens, don't just read it, reclaim it. My name, my system, your truth. She pressed a finger to the camera, then the feed cut. Silence, and I just sat there, laptop open, dinner cold, surrounded by 6 empty seats. The only thing still warm was the fire she left behind. I didn't plan to go, not at first, but there are some truths you don't carry quietly, and some ghosts that refuse to stay on hard drives. I drove through West Lincoln Avenue in silence. The city was dressed for winter, lights in the trees, wreaths on polished doors, cold against the windshield. But the Arden estate, it never changed. Not since I was 14 and first told, don't wander off during events. People will ask questions. They never liked questions. I parked outside the gate. Security didn't stop me. Of course they didn't. I built half the entry protocol they still use. Inside, the house was alive with warmth. The smell of turkey, champagne, laughter behind glass. Through the wide front windows, I saw them. Vivienne near the fireplace, Jareth holding a glass of something expensive. Cora laughing with someone I didn't recognize. They looked like a painting I never belonged in. I walked to the front door, rang once. A servant opened it, then froze. "I'm here to speak with the family," I said. He nodded slowly, stepped aside. My shoes didn't echo on the marble floor. Too many carpets, too many years of noise suppression. They liked their surfaces polished and their conflict buried. I stepped into the living room. All heads turned. Vivienne's smile cracked first. "Nico." Jareth didn't speak. He just raised one brow, the kind of expression that always said, "Make it quick." I didn't make it quick. I pulled the drive from my pocket, held it between my fingers. "Before dinner's over, this house is going to know who I really am." Cora scoffed. "Is this about the dinner you planned? Nico, you always take things. This isn't about dinner." I turned to the media wall, spoke directly to the house system. "Chronarch OS, override, display input a 01. The screen blinked. For a moment, nothing. Then Lara's face filled the room. The video played, the exact same file from the restaurant. No edits, no context, just her voice, her truth. I watched their faces instead of the screen. Vivienne's jaw clenched. Jareth's glass paused midair. Cora blinked fast, like unseeing would erase it. Maddox, he stared at the screen, then at me, and whispered, "She's your mother." I nodded. The room fell silent, except for one final line from Lara. "My name, my system, your truth." When it ended, no one spoke. I stepped forward. "You called me lucky to be here. You said I should be grateful for the roof you gave me. But this house isn't mine. This name isn't mine, and this legacy, you didn't build it." I turned to Jareth. "You didn't rescue me, you rebranded me." Vivienne swallowed. "You don't understand the politics. No, you don't understand blood." I dropped the drive onto the coffee table, watched it spin to a stop on the polished glass. "You tried to erase her, but you forgot what I inherited. Memory." And I walked out while the portrait of Jareth Arden stared down from above the fireplace, staring at a family already coming undone. I didn't sleep that night, didn't need to. Some awakenings don't leave space for rest, only action. At 6:42 a.m., I logged into the Chronarch core system. The login screen looked the same. Neutral, deceptive. But this time, I didn't use my Arden credentials. I used hers. Lara Ryse. Vault. 231 password, embedded. Voice print, mine. Because she'd built the system to recognize her son before anyone else did. The system didn't hesitate. "Welcome back, Director." 3 words, and everything they locked me out of unlocked. Blueprints, patent trees, internal memos, Even the control keys to the encrypted AI that powered Arden's most lucrative product, memory mesh trademark, the tech they used to repackage human cognition and sell it to elite clients under legacy preservation. Except the core code. It wasn't Jareth's, it wasn't Chronarch's, it was Lara's, filed under an old subdivision, Ryse Genesis. They'd buried it, white-labeled it, but hadn't deleted it because they couldn't. I downloaded everything, encrypted drives, dated logs, and a single ownership document, design attribution. Lara M., Ryse beneficiary. Nico Ryse, formerly Nico Arden transfer locked until. Activation by direct bloodline. I stared at the clause, then smiled, because poetic justice doesn't come with fireworks. It arrives in legal footnotes, in overlooked inheritance clauses, in systems no one thought to rewire. By 9:00 a.m., I had filed a full IP claim through an offshore proxy. By noon, Chronarch stock paused, pending internal audit. By 3:15, my former father Jareth received a legal notice. 3 lines long, use of memory mesh suspended. Public hearing scheduled. Original patent holder has been identified. No threats, no press release, just accountability. That night, I sat on the rooftop of the Southside Co-op Lara had once lived in, a building they never bothered to knock down because they never thought it mattered. I watched the city shimmer from above and opened the second file she left me. A message, short, personal, recorded in 2005. You don't owe them fire, Nico. You just have to turn the lights on. 3 days after the system reset, Lara invited me to dinner. Not an event, not a press opportunity, just dinner. Her apartment wasn't anything like the Arden estate. No chandeliers, no marble. Just warm wood floors, books stacked like constellations, and a dining table scarred with stories. She opened the door before I knocked, pulled me in before I could second-guess it. I burned the roast, she said, but the wine's good and the pie didn't collapse, so we're halfway there. I laughed, not politely, not to fill the space. I just laughed like someone who hadn't in a long time. The table was set for 2. Cloth napkins, mismatched plates, 1 candle in the middle half burned. She gestured to the chair across from hers. You carve, she said, handing me the knife. I paused. I've never carved before, I said. That's the point. So I did. The slices were uneven, the rhythm awkward, but no one commented, no one corrected, because this table didn't expect performance, it just asked for presence. Halfway through the meal, she looked up, eyes soft, unflinching. I used to wonder what your voice would sound like. Now I hear mine in it. I didn't speak, I just nodded, because I knew exactly what she meant. We didn't talk about Chronarch, not that night. We talked about music, how she hated olives, that she once taught art at a summer program before AI took over most classrooms. I told her about the first time I coded something that didn't crash, about the train ride when a stranger changed everything, and how I used to stare at the Arden family portrait for hours, trying to make the math work between their faces and mine. Later, when the plates were empty and the candle nearly out, she stood and cleared the dishes. I stayed behind, poured 2 more glasses of cider, watched the way the flame flickered low but steady, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a placeholder at the table. I felt chosen, not because I was convenient, but because I was known. The news broke 2 days later. SEC audit, IP fraud, Chronarch stock halted at 17%. Jareth Arden's name was removed from the board roster. Vivienne's last interview disappeared from the company site. I didn't need to post a thing. Truth has a way of broadcasting itself once you stop protecting the people who lied first. That morning, I stood on Lara's balcony. The air was cold, but not bitter, just honest. She was inside, humming quietly, prepping breakfast like it was the most normal thing in the world, and maybe it was becoming that. I was trimming rosemary into a clay pot we'd found at a thrift shop when my phone buzzed. Vivienne Arden, no greeting. No, we didn't know. No apology, just 5 words. Can you help us recover? I stared at the screen, no panic, no rage, just clarity. I set the phone down next to the pot, didn't reply, didn't block her. I just let the silence hold. Behind me, Lara stepped onto the balcony. She looked at the untouched phone, then at me. Didn't ask a thing. Instead, she handed me a mug of tea and said, "You don't have to prove anything anymore." I nodded, then deleted the message. One tap, gone. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything I had reclaimed, my name, my voice, my seat at the table. They could call, they could plead, they could rot in the boardroom they built on her bones. But I wasn't coming back to rescue what never cared to keep me. I sipped my tea, planted another herb, and let the morning stretch wide and unbothered. Weeks passed, the world moved on. But this time, I didn't feel like it was moving without me. Seattle felt real now, not a retreat, not a pause, a beginning. Lara and I worked side by side, not as mother and son at first, but as two people rebuilding what had been stolen from them in different ways. She offered me a permanent seat on her new design ethics board. I turned it down. "I don't want a seat," I said. "I want a blueprint." So we started something new, quietly, without press, without fanfare. Just a name etched into the corner of a room we converted into a workshop. Ryse/Forward, not a company, not a statement. Just a place where displaced minds could build again, students dropped from programs, thinkers pushed out of systems, people like me. The ones who were rebranded before they were remembered. We ran late nights with music and soldering irons, floors covered in wire, thoughts scribbled on every wall. No titles, no politics, just truth and design. One evening, as the city lights flickered behind us, Lara handed me a folded paper, a photo of her, years younger, holding a toddler with my same tired eyes. On the back, she'd written, "Legacy isn't what survives you, it's what sees you and stays." I kept that photo on my desk, right next to the first schematic I ever drew, not perfect, not published, but mine. And every now and then I'd get another message from the Ardens, sometimes legal, sometimes desperate, sometimes nostalgic. I never answered, because legacy, I learned, doesn't need a last name or a plaque or a chair at a table that never saw you. It just needs a seed and space to grow. And I had both, right here, where I was never supposed to exist, and now could never be erased.